What was harder, winning that first gold with her or staying on top for the next 8 to 10 years?
Competition was not a dirty word in my house. It was like something that was beautiful and welcomed. If you're playfully excellent, that's the recipe for kicking everyone's butt and having fun. Having hunger in your life is such a competitive advantage. I failed so much in my life. You have to win the bronze, and it's a really hard match to play because you're literally devastated.
Women's volleyball is having a moment right now.
I just wanted to finish like that. It didn't happen on the competitive field, but it's happening in every other area in my life now, so I'm not losing. Winning the first gold was the easiest.
Today's guest is a 5-time Olympian, 3-time Olympic gold medalist, and the most decorated beach volleyball player in the history of the Games. Welcome, Kerri Walsh Jennings. Kerri won gold in Athens, Beijing, and London alongside Misty May-Treanor, forming one of the greatest partnerships in Olympic history. Together, they went on a 12-match win streak, won 21 consecutive Olympic matches across 3 games, and didn't drop a single set in 2004 or 2008. She added a bronze medal in Rio at age 38 with partner April Ross, and at the London 2012 Games, she won gold while 5 weeks pregnant. Before she ever stepped on the sand, Kerri was a Stanford standout who helped win 2 NCAA championships. She came back from 5 shoulder surgeries to keep competing at the highest level, finishing her career with 135 wins, the all-time record in professional beach volleyball. A Bay Area native who's now giving back to the community that raised her, Kerri co-founded P1440 with her husband Casey to develop the next generation of athletes through scholarships, mentorships, and youth programming, all built around the belief that you should make the most of every one of the 1,440 minutes in a day. She's also a founding owner of the Northern California Major League Volleyball franchise, helping bring professional women's volleyball to the Bay Area. In 2025, she was inducted into the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Hall of Fame. We'll be talking about injury, recovery, and the mindset required to stay competitive year after year. Welcome to the show, Kerri.
Thank you. That was very good.
Thanks for coming on the show today. I'm super excited, especially since, not only am I a huge fan of yours, but we both live in the Bay Area in the Santa Clara County, and this is our home. And I love how much you're giving back to the community. So I'm actually going to start from there, and then we're going to sort of move back.
All right.
So I would love to hear what you are doing here in the Bay Area. I know you've brought Major League Volleyball to the Bay.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, we have a couple things we're doing here in the Bay, and I was gone for over 22 years. And 2 years ago, my husband...
You were a little bit busy for those 22 years.
But in my heart, I'm like, no, I am NorCal through and through, even though I lived in Manhattan Beach, SoCal for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. But I'm just rootsy. Like, I'm so proud to be from the Bay Area. And so to come back has been so special. And about 6 months ago, this opportunity basically fell in my lap because I was invited to be part of Major League Volleyball, which is this new league. It's in year 3 right now, and to be part of the ownership group that's bringing a franchise to Northern California. And so right now, we don't have an official name yet. We just hired our president, which is to be announced. But we're going to bring the best of the best in the world, pro indoor volleyball, women's, to the Bay Area. It's incredible.
I think that's amazing. I think, first of all, women's volleyball is having a moment right now. Yeah. And also in the Bay Area, women's sports is having a moment with soccer coming here and all of that. So I think giving back to the community in that way is so amazing.
It's so amazing. And it's been such a very warm reception for us. We reach out to the Bay FC people, to the Valkyries people, to the man we love, John Posh from the San Jose Sports Authority. And everyone has been like, come here, like come to San Jose, play here, play at SAP, and it's so fun with our franchise. Our territory is from Sacramento to Santa Cruz. And within that, as you know, this area it's like where you go to get stuff done.
Absolutely.
It's where the dreamers like align and they shake the world. And so I feel like we have the best territory in the whole wide world to bring this franchise. And we're learning from the success of the Valkyries and the kindness of John in San Jose. And so I'm just excited to dominate. I grew up in the Bay Area in the 80s. And the Niners never lost, and I would just like, and the Warriors and the Giants and the Raiders, like that's in my blood. And then you have Stanford and Santa Clara and St. Mary's and all the amazing, collegiate institutions. So I'm in the right place. Volleyball is certainly having a moment. I think it's here to stay. I think finally we're pushing through that whatever barrier we had, because we're a top 5 global sport. We are the number 1 sport for girls and young women in the country, surpassing soccer and basketball. So we're not going anywhere.
I mean, as having a middle school child, I'm seeing that firsthand. More and more girls and boys are picking volleyball as a sport in middle school, and it's not, it's not always considered as mainstream as, say, baseball and soccer. So it's really great to see.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you grew up here.
Yeah.
Tell me about your upbringing. Both of your parents are athletes. When were you inspired to play volleyball?
Gosh, I was like, where to start? I'm so in love with my parents. They're incredible. They both grew up here. My dad went to Wilcox and then Midi. My mom went to Mother Butler and then Archbishop Midi. And we're so rooted here in the Bay Area. My mom grew up in Saratoga, and that's where we all currently live. My mom's one of 8. They all live within 3 miles of each other.
Oh, well,
My dad's one of 4.
nice.
Very similar situation.
Lots of cousins for the kids.
So I had no friends growing up. I had cousins. And my parents and their siblings and my grandparents were all incredible athletes. And so my childhood was watching the people I love most compete. And that planted a seed in me, let alone I had this DNA of a competitor. We love winning. We love the pursuit. That's part of my heritage. But then to get the real life embodiment and examples of champions and people who just love, trying for that gold medal and putting it out there, even if it's co-ed softball. I had that every week growing up. And so that's when I fell in love with sports. Competition was not a dirty word in my house. It was something that was beautiful and welcomed. But I fell in love with volleyball at St. Mary's in Los Gatos in the 5th grade. I was 10 years old and playing every sport growing up. I loved it so much. But volleyball, when I was that age, really opened up something in me, gave me a voice because I was such a shy kid. And then at Midi, I played 2 sports, basketball and volleyball. I didn't love basketball. I loved playing for Coach Phillips, who is incredible. And if you don't know about her, she's a legacy. She does not lose, and I know everyone in the area knows her. And so I had the good fortune of playing for her for 4 years and just learning how to be tough. And I played it not only because my Nana loved it so much, but it made me stronger for my true passion, which is volleyball.
How did you balance both sports? Because just before we start recording, we were talking about how kids these days, they just focus on one sport.
Yeah.
So how did you balance both of those things?
I was just so fortunate to grow up in the age where you did have seasonality to your life. I had the fall was volleyball season for high school, and then the winter was basketball, and then you'd go into club volleyball after that. So that was just the system that I was allowed to be raised in. And before that, you played everything. Whatever was in season, you were playing, whether it was soccer, basketball, baseball, volleyball. That's how it was when I grew up, And now it's so different and it's so frustrating. My sister and I just started a club called Legend Volleyball Club here in the South Bay.
Yes, I know some kids in there. They're very happy there.
It's so fun. And, we want to win and kick everyone's what.
Yes.
But we want to do it with love and with this fierceness because we know who we are. We are fortified from the inside out. And that's what I think youth sports is not giving to kids these days. It's all outcome focused. It's all performative. And they're missing the most beautiful part of life, which is the development and the journey. And so that's something that Legend Volleyball Club wanted to, kind of ease that pain point. And then my husband started a beach club called J5 Beach Academy.
Amazing.
And he's doing the same on that side because sport has given us so much, and so many kids they don't roll their eyes. There's a lot of great reverence and respect. But even the parents, Kerri and Casey, we agree with what you're saying, but the system does not support what you're saying. So what do we do?
Sure.
As a parent, what do we do when the coaches are like, I'm not even going to look at your kid unless they pick club? Or my kid's, 5'6" and everyone else is 6'1". What are we going to do? And it's just you have to be, as a parent, as you have to be the biggest advocate for your kids.
Absolutely.
And you have to have this long-term vision. And for 98% of kids, they're just going to play through high school and be done.
Yeah.
There's not these pro, aspirations. So if you live it for the development, you're not going to lose. And it's going to serve you. And all those skills transfer as you go.
Absolutely. I think that's a great thing for parents to keep in mind is let's look at the long-term goal here and what kind of other skills we can achieve, life skills too, not just physical skill, because the chances are your child is probably not going to make it to the pro realm. Maybe they will, and that's awesome if they do. But what can we gather along the way if we don't achieve that?
Totally. Well, and it's just I feel because people want their kids to have a very long career, which God bless you, it's so wonderful. But you have to start at the letter A.
Yes.
You can't jump in at F and be and skip steps, just because you want to win when you're 12 or 13 or even 14. It's your kid has the highest chance of going farthest if you let them be where they are, age appropriate stuff, volume and load appropriate training and competing. That will get them far, and going through really hard stuff. Like, that is so important.
Yeah.
We have our one son doesn't get a lot of playing time, and it devastates me. And he's the kid that wakes up at 6 a.m. and trains on his own because he loves it.
Yeah.
And it breaks your heart. But my husband keeps reminding, he's like, babe, it's coming. His time is coming. And if it doesn't in this realm, that kid is going to be such a badass because he is doing this because he wants to.
Yeah.
Because he's chasing anything, but he has this inner drive. And he's putting action behind that desire and that goal of his. And he's like, that is not going to fail him.
Okay, so Kerri, you were telling me about how sometimes your son doesn't get as much playing time,
Right.
that he is up early and he really has a passion for the sport. How, as a mom, though, and obviously a competitive athlete yourself, do you guide him and coach him and talk to him about this?
It's hard because you just want your kid to have the best experience and to, just have like smooth sailing in a feathered nest. But I know that's not life. So it's hard for me and I'm a pushover. And so I'm not excellent at this. My husband is excellent. But I just tell him, babe, if you study the greats, like they all went through a period or many periods of something like this, but they just outlasted and they kept showing up. And I'm like, babe, you have this beautiful gift and you've committed to it where you are the kid who shows up every day. A lot of kids show up 3 days a week, or they show up just when it feels good, or they show up not feeling well, and then they show it. But you show up with all your heart every day, and that's going to serve you. So that kind of stuff is how we talk about it. But we acknowledge that it sucks. We acknowledge that, and through your eyes, maybe you're better than the kid you think is playing in front of you. But, the coach has a plan, and he has a puzzle, and it's really hard. And you got to take up space. This is an invitation for you to be bigger, be more, be yourself 100%. But what could you bring that special, from you to this team that it needs? And so we just help him to think about it, to frame it. And then my husband is so good. He went to JC, two JCs, my husband, and then he got a 4-year scholarship to BYU. And he's 6'2", he's my height, he's from Vegas, volleyball wasn't a thing. And at every stop he was told, no, you're too little, all these things. He had all these barriers, but he made it every level. He won a national championship BYU. And then he made it in beach volleyball and he became one of the top teams in the world, one of the top players in the world. And so my husband has literally lived this journey that my son is going through right now. My son's 15. Like, he's right on time, by the way. But I have this urgency because I'm a softie. I'm like, my baby.
Yes, of course.
And I just want people to see my kid. That's like the biggest thing. Like, when a teacher, like, you go to a conference and they tell you about your children and you're like, oh my God, feeling. I'm so grateful. Because I feel like, when I grew up, like, I feel like, we just got reprimanded all the time.
Yeah.
And they didn't have time for
it's a different world right now. Correct.
Yeah, which is beautiful. So if you can do both, have the accountability and the responsibility that we grew up with, but also having kind of the heart and the awareness that each kid is different, I think that's a beautiful thing. And I know that's a parent's job above all. I don't want the teachers to do that for me. I don't want the coaches to do that for my kids. I just want them to be supportive. But all of this is serving my son. I have no doubt. And our 2 other children are going through their own journeys. So no matter if you're the best, if you're in the middle, if you're the worst, it's all hard. And people need to know that too.
And I think, kind of the area that we live in and just the world we're living in, if this is their biggest struggle and they have the support of you, your husband, the rest of the family, like, how great is that they can struggle that way with a support system around them?
Yes, that's a very, very good point.
And speaking of that, because he's a high schooler, tell me about your transition from high school to college when you went to Stanford. Because a lot of times when I talk to athletes, it feels very different once they go to college. Whole new set of rules, a lot tougher, not away from that, or you are away from that support system as we were just talking about.
Yeah.
So tell me about those years.
It's so interesting, obviously so long ago now. So I graduated Midi in 96, and I just feel like Archbishop Midi, because of the kids for sure, the students were incredible, but the staff there. I had this teacher, Mr. Matthews, who is the AD and one of the English teachers. Like, he changed my life. Like, had such integrity and the highest of standards, and he was so present for me. And my coaches were exceptional, and not because like they preached fundamentals and they preached character and integrity. And if you can have those 3 things, if you can own them, you can get through anything in life. And so I feel like my time at Archbishop Midi really prepared me for Stanford. And now that my kids are at Midi, I'm so grateful. And so when I got to Stanford, I felt I did. I mean, felt so nervous. It's 20 minutes from where I grew up. Like, I didn't go very far. I bawled my eyes out the first day my parents dropped me off. I'm like, I'm never going to see you again. And I saw them the next day.
Because you live here.
Because I live here. Palo Alto to Saratoga is not that far. But it was a big milestone. It was my first big dream come true. That was a big deal. The volleyball side, not that it was easy, but I was just such a nerd for volleyball. I just wanted it so bad and I loved it so much. And I walked into this environment of excellence and they had already tasted winning and they were not going to settle for anything less. And so I walked into a beautiful situation. My fellow freshmen were incredible. The upperclassmen were rad. They were hard on us, but loved us. But the academic side is certainly where I felt like over my skis. In my head, I don't know why I chose to do this, but in my head, I'm like, I'm a jock here. Let me just excel on the court, do my best in the classroom. And I really talked myself out of being a great student. And I'm like, I'm literally surrounded by geniuses. Like, I don't belong here in this way. And
so you had a little bit of, now we term it imposter syndrome.
I did.
That word didn't exist back when we were growing up.
No, sure. You were just a sissy.
Yeah, exactly. You just couldn't, put on your big girl panties. But
I didn't do it.
But you were feeling a little out of place, even 100%. Though you clearly deserved to be there.
Yeah, for sure. And it's okay that I wasn't the smartest and that I was intimidated. But, usually in those moments, like I step up and I like kind of fake it to make it. And I'm like, okay, well, I belong here. So let me just try my hardest. But for some reason, I shrunk a bit at Stanford academically. And then and I'm just going to fast forward a bit. So after my senior year, I tried out for the national team and I made my first Olympics. And so I had to take 3 quarters away from Stanford and I had to go back after a year. And when I went back, I finally realized that I belong here. Like I've been lying to myself. Like I can hang with these students. I'm not just a dumb jock.
And so that was maturity and wisdom.
I think so. Yeah. And just owning who I was.
Sure.
And everything I see now is just a repetition. I'm just getting reps. Like nothing's the end all be all, but every experience you're getting experience, you're getting wisdom, and you're getting repetitions at whatever it is. And Stanford, if I could have one redo over in my whole life, it would be Stanford. I would do school differently.
Yeah.
But it still served me so well. And to be surrounded in that environment, that's so inspiring that you are held to such a high standard and to high account. It really helped me in the next phase of my life, which is still ongoing.
Well, I was studying medicine and doing something completely different than you. And I slept into a lot of classes and was out late. And I look back also and was like, what was I doing? What a gift it was to get this education. And clearly I'm okay now. But
yeah, you made it.
But exactly. But I think part of that is just growing up and not recognizing sometimes these opportunities you have right in front of you.
100%.
Okay, so let's go to your first Olympics.
Okay.
This was indoor volleyball.
Indoor volleyball. Yep. So I had 4 years at Stanford. We won twice. My senior year, I had the worst match of my career. We lost to Penn State in the finals, which that loss sucked, but it served a purpose. Every major loss has served a purpose. And so at the games, it was so fun. I was representing USA. I'm such a proud American. My whole family was there, flew out to Sydney, Australia. But there was a lot of heartbreak mixed in because the first match I was going to play, I was pulled aside and said I had a positive doping test.
Oh,
and so I was getting ready to start, like warmed up. Coach gave starting lineup. I was in there, and then he pulled me aside and said, "Kerri, you can't play. We just got this alert, and if you play, you put us all in jeopardy." So he's like, "Just stand by, cheer on your team, tell them it's your ankle, and then because I had hurt it really bad a month before,
sure,
and we'll figure it out." And then that led to this like saga and heartbreak where they just told me to go home. They said they couldn't help me. They said, we know you're not guilty, but we can't have you be a distraction.
Anything.
But my mom stepped up and saved the day. So ultimately, I think I missed 4 matches and then I was able to play midway through.
That must have felt amazing in that moment.
To come back?
Yes, to come back.
It did. It really did because I just so inspiring. And basically the impossible happened, was made possible because of my mom's resilience and persistence, and she was not going anywhere, and I was so grateful. But it broke my heart, and I think it was just the setup for me to choose something different after the games, because indoor, I loved it so much. I never thought I'd walk away. I thought I'd have a 20-year career indoor, but that shattered something in me when the people you think are in your team are not in your team. And so I really realized it's on me. If I want to do this, it's on me. And it really created this pause where I was like, well, what do I want to do with my life? I don't want to go play overseas. Like my family's too close to me. I don't want to go away for 9 months. Like, what do I want to do? And then I got a call from Misty May, or my parents talked to her parents and they set us up.
So that was your transition from indoor volleyball to beach volleyball.
Yeah, it was like a blind date with Misty, who is my idol growing up. She's only a year older than me. And our parents literally, they met in Sydney at like one of the family gathering houses. And they said, hey, Miss is going to be looking for a new partner. She was playing beach. She got 5th with Holly McPeak in Sydney. I was playing indoor, but didn't want to go overseas. And they're like, we should get the girls together. They're both athletes. They're both young.
And
Misty
so
wants to grow.
Your parents had a lot to do with it.
Yes.
They're the one.
Yeah. They're the matchmakers in my whole life. It's pretty special. And then my day one with Misty, I met my husband.
Everything happens for a reason, right?
It's just the unfolding of my life has been beautiful. Everyone's like, did you always see this? And were you such a forward planner? I'm like, no, man. I am in the moment. My life is unfolding. And it just keeps working out. And I feel so grateful.
Okay, tell me your mindset as you're leaving London and you didn't medal there.
In Sydney.
In Sydney, correct. And how did this shape your hunger?
Oh, my God.
So you've now switched from indoor to beach.
Yeah.
You have this amazing partner.
Yeah.
And tell me what that mindset was. What was that hunger like?
Well, getting 4th at the Olympics is such an honor, and it's also so terrible. Yeah, because you get nothing, and we played Russia in a 5-set just barn burner in the semifinals, and we lost. And Russia was incredible, best team in the world. I think they won gold that year, but we lost in 5, heartbreaking. That would put us in the like gold or silver, but we lost. We were playing for bronze, and then we got our butts kicked by Brazil. So that sucked. But the whole experience of being at the Olympics, seeing the best in the world that come in all shapes and sizes and ages, like there's literally, like it's limitless, the people who are excellent. And to represent USA for the first time, it did make me so hungry. And having hunger in your life is such a competitive advantage. It just sharpens everything. Like you get more brave, you're more resilient because you want it, and so it left me wanting more. And I had no idea it would come on the beach side, but it left me so hungry. It left Misty so hungry. And then we came together at a time in our lives. I was 22, she was 23, and we had the whole world in front of us. And on day one, we had magic. Like we had something.
Day one, you knew there was chemistry.
Yes, I was terrible, but I was athletic because of all my multi-sports growing up, I think, and I'm pretty stubborn. And so there was magic. And then she took a chance on me. She really did. And then we together, and she certainly, at least in the first 2 years, she outlasted the what ifs because she could add any veteran in the world who was way better than I was at the time. But I think she had the courage of having a long-term view, and her parents certainly knew that we had magic together. And so she outlasted those thoughts, and we outlasted all the turmoil together, and we had 10 plus years together and 3 golds, and it was amazing.
What an amazing legacy you guys have left. I want to ask you, what was harder, winning that first gold with her or staying on top for the next 8 to 10 years?
Winning the first gold was the easiest. It was humbly speaking, we were so good. And not even we were so good. We were just so hungry and so naive to the outside world because we were so insulated and just so, like, we were 2 young girls traveling the world together, trying to, beat the best in the world. And for a couple of years there, we would get our asses kicked by Brazil every time we played them in the finals. And then ultimately, we finally started to win, and then we started to come into our own. And by the time the Olympics came around in 2004, we were humming. So it was really fun. But like the moment we won gold in Athens, literally the moment, we're like, let's do it again. And that 4 years between Athens and Beijing was a different experience because the pressure we put on ourselves to repeat, which had never been done before, the noise, and we let the outside noise get a little bit louder, in our heads. And we both wanted families, and we had all these competing things in our head, but we certainly wanted to go for gold in Beijing. So anyhow, we outlasted and we won in Beijing, and that was wonderful. But it was much harder to stay on top. And then come around London, we were the grandmothers. Like I think I was 36, she was 37.
You were advanced maternal age.
33,
actually,
34.
is the word that we call it.
Can I just say that that's absurd? That makes me so upset.
I hate
because
I had kids at the same time you did, and I hate it. I agree with
if
you.
You're 40, I'm like, that's not right.
I know.
God made us so strong and so meant to do this. I don't like that fear-based stuff.
No,
but,
absolutely.
Because I was not a precious flower when I was pregnant. I was like a fierce, get out of my way. But also so loving and feminine. It's beautiful dichotomy.
Yes. So you were 5 weeks pregnant.
I was very early. Yeah.
Very early with your first.
With my third.
Your third child.
Yeah.
Okay.
My
So
last.
in between you had kids.
Yes. So I had babies back to back. My boys are 352 days apart.
Wow.
Real Irish twins.
Yeah.
Right after Beijing, I got pregnant in Beijing. And then 3 months later, I got pregnant again with Sundance. And then we had Scouty, at London. So.
Okay, so tell me about the training between Beijing and London then. You've got 2 young kids.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. So my Joey was born in 2009, and I waited to heal, all like 3 weeks, and then I got back on the sand.
3 weeks.
I know, but I'm a fast healer, and I felt so good. Everything was
Sure.
I'm one of those a-holes who love being pregnant. Who I stayed very active throughout all my pregnancies because I wanted to hit the ground running, and I really wanted to have easy deliveries, and so I stayed very strong and connected. But yeah, so I came back in between my boys, and then I had my Sundance in 2010, and then 3 months later, I was back on the court competing. And Misty had retired for a while after Beijing, and then she unretired so we can go to London together, which is incredible. So there's so many storylines, and she tore her Achilles, and I was coming back from 2 babies, like so many things. And then I had not at that time, I think I had 4 shoulder surgeries up to that point. So,
well, let's get into the shoulder.
Wild.
Tell me about, you were dislocating, correct?
So my first surgeries were at Stanford.
Okay.
I was 18 and 19 when I had my surgeries, and I was just still growing, and I was subluxing a lot.
Subluxing.
So a lot of, but I was not strong. And so what I know now is that the solution is a lot of PT, get strong, and have a lot of body work.
Yes, I'm glad you just said that. I want to point that out because a lot of healthcare professionals watch this.
Yeah.
Is that the first line of treatment for a subluxating or dislocating shoulder is always PT.
Oh my gosh.
It's PT like 1 through 5, and then we start talking about surgery.
There you go.
Yes.
Yes. And it was so wild. My core strength was not there, and everything's so connected. And my shoulder became this like attachment to me instead of integrated to my body, and that's where I would have restarted everything. And so when I was 18 and 19, I had this surgery where they shrunk my capsule to try to create
and make it tighter.
To make it tighter. And apparently they don't do that. They stopped doing that procedure after the first 3 years because it's so bad.
Yeah.
And so I had 2 of those, which really thinned out my capsule, and I think it set me up for 4 more surgeries after that. But I learned so much. And on Stanford, I was on prednisone constantly, Celebrex constantly. I was getting shots, and ice and stem. And I'm like, what is happening? But there's so much trust and love, and you have this short-term view.
Of course.
But even 20 years later, my gut was crushed from all of that.
Yes.
I was on prednisone for, I think, 2 months.
Yes.
As an athlete, it's just so weird to me.
And that prednisone will not wear off for several months after.
Oh my God.
So it's not just when you stop it. So
no, I bet. So anyhow, worth it. And I learned, and now that I have babies, I'm like, nope, we're going to get strong. That's the first solution. We're going to hydrate. And I'm such a believer of heat and just touch. I want my muscles to be strong but soft. And the tone we all have, I think, is too much. All these 6-packs that are so beautiful, that to me leads to a really tight lower back. You can have both. I just think we're so obsessed with muscles. We need to kind of see things differently,
Absolutely. Strength training doesn't need to mean,
bulk.
Bulk. Exactly.
Yeah.
So in working through those shoulder surgeries, how did you have to kind of change your biomechanics? Obviously, as everyone knows, volleyball requires your shoulder quite a bit.
Yes,
so what were you doing to change your mechanics so that you were able to stay so at the top of your game?
First of all, I think the thing that saved me was that I was a very complete all-around player. So even though I couldn't hit, my junior year at Stanford or my sophomore year, I tipped every ball or I hit left-handed. So the fact that I couldn't use my right arm, it turned me into a lefty, and it made me really creative. That was the gift. And after every single surgery and injury my whole life, my mom has always said, babe, this is going to make you better if you allow it. And I was like, Mom, you just don't understand. But she was right. I had to create new tools and learn more about myself and again, be more creative. And so that's what the surgeries gave me. But, biomechanically, I don't know if I ever honestly fixed it. I'm really dense. But for some reason, the shoulder surgeries, I always came back in an expedited way, but I always felt really sound. I had an amazing surgeon, Dr. Schobert, down in Orange County. And then my PTs, Tommy Knox, took me to 4 Olympics.
Wow.
I started doing Pilates at some point, which my deep intrinsic, those little muscles started to really be the foundation of me instead of, not that I have big quads or big muscles.
Yes.
I started to rely on the deeper part of me, inside out to fuel me and to make sure that I could have, strength and agility throughout a long season. So I think the addition of Pilates, mindful weightlifting and training, and being tough and stubborn kind of got me through it. But I haven't had, I can't even look at pain medication. Like I've just been so, like my time at Stanford really crushed me.
Sure.
Where God bless pharmaceuticals, God bless all of it. I don't have a tolerance for it anymore, So that has been a gift as well, because you have to go and search other methods, and all these holistic modalities and devices, which now that I have babies, I want to introduce them to this stuff that basically triggers the good stuff in your body to support itself, not some exogenous thing that's going to replace.
Yeah. Well, we're living also in a time of more preservation, prevention, wellness, longevity.
Yes.
And
I know breath could go a long way toward pain management.
Absolutely.
And mental health.
I just interviewed a really prominent physical therapist, doctor of PT, and that was her number one tip is to start with breath work every single day. Yes. I'm all about all of those alternative methods. Even as a surgeon myself, I can cut any day of the week, but what I'm trying to get my patients to is what else can we do before we have to get to that point.
And then after.
And after as well.
Your job is such a beautiful and important piece of the journey, but the prep before
and after
is everything. I'm like, you can ruin a great surgery if you don't commit to the PT.
I love that you say it, because I always tell my patients, I'm like, this is not going to work. I can do the most perfect surgery unless you do the prehab and the post-rehab. And also you take advantage of these other modalities, including mobility work, which is super important. I'm already seeing with my young kids at 10 and 11, I'm like, you could touch your toes a year ago.
They're so stiff
here. They're getting so stiff.
My kids are like, don't touch me. I'm too sore. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's part of the age too.
Yes.
They're
growing. And so their muscles are on a lot of stress. And so, but I think it's our job to keep them mobile. Because you got to take that with you.
Yeah. And I think if you're not going to, if they don't have the attention span or the discipline to do the stretching or the whatever to keep them mobile and agile, I think just like rubbing your kids is so, and they hate it until they love it.
It's so good mentally for them too, just that touch and that connection with you as a parent.
I think so.
Okay, so you're done with London. You guys have still dominated.
Yeah.
And what happened after that?
Oh gosh! After that, I partnered up with April Ross.
Yes.
And
so Misty
retired officially.
Okay.
Yep. And I asked her 100 times before I asked April to play. But she was ready to start her family and all these things. Sure. Misty, I just want to say, I adore her so much. Like people are like, "How are you guys?" I'm like, I love her forever. She's such a special human and the champion.
Soulmates in a lot of ways.
Totally.
Yeah.
I feel like we had this life contract to challenge each other and to rise together. And now that we're both done competing for a long time now, like to see her as a mom and as a leader is in a different way is really beautiful. I was just about to, get back in the sand after I had my daughter scout in April of 2013. And April was like, can you come back a little early? Because let's go. And so we started playing together in July, and that started our Olympic run for 2016, which is Rio. And it was so fun to play with April. It was so sad to not have Misty, because we just had such a
great how did you reconcile that in your head? You've had this almost like a marriage for so long, and now you have a new partner.
If Misty wasn't so clear that she was done, and if I wasn't so happy for her that she was doing what she wanted to do, it would have been way harder.
And you were not done. You were very clear in your head. You were very not done.
Like Misty and I won in London, and we played April in the final, and her partner Jen, and I literally. Afterward, you go and shake hands and hug. And literally, I hugged her and said, let's go win in Rio.
Oh, I love that.
It was so not premeditated. It came out of nowhere. I was like, God, I'm such a freak. Like, just enjoy the moment.
Manifesting things for yourself.
Oh, man. It was such a bummer because that hurt Misty when she heard about it. I'm like, no, miss, I don't know. Like, you know me. I'm crazy. But, that's what highlights to me the importance of loving the journey, because the destination is that fast.
Yeah.
Like, I had just won and I was like, hey, what's next? Like literally just won. So,
and I think that's the mindset of a competitive athlete or someone who's competitive in anything that when they are at a high level. Yeah. But that's what I would tell my younger self too, is you have to enjoy the journey and the moments. And even that was a big victory, but even small victories along the way.
Well, because the journey's long and excellence is difficult by design. And so, but I love the journey. I secretly love the hard parts. Like anytime Misty and I had friction, it made us so much stronger. Every loss pissed us off so much more for greatness, and so everything serves. That's like a life philosophy of mine. So it was sad to have Misty and I not together, but April is such a rad human, and she's such a champion, so different than Misty in so many ways, but so similar in the fact that she's a champion. She was so hungry. She's more stoic than me, more similar to Misty than I am. And so we fit. It was really easy. And we were the best team in the world. And we show up to Rio and we got third. And it was nonsense. And I had a tough match in the semifinal. And, we came back and won bronze. And it was such a beautiful thing to experience as a competitor, as a human, to be in utter devastation. And then 24 hours later, less than, you go and you have to put your heart on the line again when you're carrying shame and fear on the world stage. Like there were so many nuances and things.
What do you do in those moments? How do you mentally prepare for that?
I had no prior experience with any of that. I've just won so much.
Yes.
Like, that sounds like such an a-hole.
No, I was
But
going to
we
say,
won so
you actually don't encounter that much.
No.
So what do you do when you do encounter it?
We had lots, because in volleyball, like, there's a championship every weekend. So if you don't win that, you feel like, I've always felt like a loser. I was like, there's another champion. Like, I would take it so personal, but it didn't happen that often. And then I had never lost in the Olympics, And so for me, who I just fancy myself someone, I took pride in showing up and being able to endure and outlast and be a gamer. And I had a bad night. And I felt like I let everyone, I couldn't even look at April in the eyes. And I couldn't look at my family, like, after the game. Like, there was so much shame in me, certainly the next 24 hours, but for 3 years after that. Like, I was so ashamed of myself, and I don't know. It was just really hard. But anyhow, so April and I, before the match, the bronze medal match, we had a really poignant moment where our coach, Marcio Sicoli, like, grabbed us. And we had done the prep, watched the video, warmed up, and he grabbed us. He's like, you guys. He goes, I don't care if you're winning by 10 and blowing them out, or if you're down by 10 and getting killed, just stick together. Like, just stay connected. And we're like, and in my head, I'm like, that's what we do. Like, what are you talking about? But we go out there and it started out so ugly. Like, it started out how the night before finished, we're losing and
Sure.
I'm having a tough time. And I remember there was like a chance for a momentum shift in game 2 after losing game 1. And April grabbed me and she's like, Kerri. I was like, yeah. And she goes, Kerri. And she like shook me out of this haze that I was in. And we locked eyes and I was like, okay. I had no idea that I wasn't doing it. I was totally fighting with all my heart and with her and the way I thought I would, 100%. But I had something over my eyes. So she lifted the veil and then we did it. And it was rad and it was hard. And the shame persisted. But to do that, literally to win, like, you don't, a silver medal you lose.
Yeah,
to earn the
sure.
silver medal. And I've never won a silver on the Olympics. That's got to hurt a little bit. You have to win the bronze. And it's a really hard match to play because you're literally devastated, And so we were playing another team that was devastated as well, the home team in Brazil. The matchup, we were supposed to be the ones playing in the finals, and we both had a tough night. So it was very poetic. It was a beautiful experience, very character building, but it sent me on this journey of identity and really trying to figure out, like, do I love myself if I don't win? And the answer was no for a long time. Which sounds so kind of weird and, hippie, but it's true. Like, I'm a performer and I like high fives.
But it's also
winning.
a good realization to have. And, you had 3 kids at this point. So it's also a really good realization to have for when you're going to bring up your own children.
You're so true. You're so right. Yeah. And it helped me. It helps me as a coach now, because I failed so much in my life and I know it all made me better. So now when my kids fail or they feel like an idiot, I'm like, babies, this is going to make you so good.
Yes.
Just don't let it break you.
Yes.
Like, none of this should break your heart. It should maybe hurt a little bit, but it should never break your heart. And then I want you to keep your head up, and carry yourself like a champion as you're becoming one, because that's what champions do.
Okay. So then the games are over. And when did you decide that you were...
So I made a run for Tokyo.
Yes.
And my partner and I, for most of the qualification period, which is 2 years, we are the number 2 team in USA, and they only send 2 teams. So we were looking good. And then, COVID hit. There were so many crazy things. And as a mom, and this is not an excuse, I thought I was Superwoman. I thought I could do 2 things at once, which was be the best in the world with my teammate, Brooke Sweat, new partner. But also in this crazy global pandemic, I thought I could stay educated enough, stay informed enough, and protect my babies and be away from them.
Sure.
And manage it all. And I couldn't. I could not do it.
That is a hard task, especially with 3 young ones.
Well, and there was just too many, like, I wasn't afraid of the virus. I wasn't afraid of the things. I would like, but what if I got stuck in Australia for 4 weeks?
Yes.
Or what if, I couldn't get back to my kids, or, there were just so many things out of my control that I couldn't do both. And unfortunately, the end of my career, I didn't have it. And it wasn't physical. It was just like heart. Like, I'm such a heart-centered person who's in the moment. And I was trying to be at 2 places at once. And it's like, I should have had the awareness to be like, I can't do this. but I tried real hard, and I'm so grateful that I did because I got to play with Brooke Sweat, who's incredible. We missed the Olympics by one spot. Our final tournament that we played in, we had to get a certain ranking. We didn't get it, and it was devastating. And at the same time, I went home to my babies, and so I was okay,
So were those two pretty defining moments for you, your bronze and then and then this struggle that you were having mentally of being two places at once?
Well, I had never really been sustainably not good. Like in my career, I always felt pretty competent, and I just wasn't playing well. And again, it wasn't anything; it was just me, you know. And yeah, so the bronze really was the first brutal shakeup to my level of identity and self-love that I did not have. And then I think Tokyo was just an opportunity to give it my all and fall short and learn a lot. And then I was going to make a run for Paris because my body felt good. And then I had this ankle and foot thing show up, and I needed surgery, and it was a pretty intensive surgery. But I'm like, I can come back. I'm a great healer. Like, I got it. But at the same time, I'm like, God, if this isn't for me, please make it very obvious. And he made it crystal clear. It's like I'm still healing, and it's been 3 years.
Yes.
And so I just think my life is unfolding. But if I was like 50% capable physically speaking, I would have gone for it, because I believe in the power of my heart and my mind and my desire to overcome physical limitations. Like Kobe, when he played, after Achilles, like you have these other like reservoirs you tap into. And I wanted to finish my career playing like very aligned body, mind, and spirit. And I feel like my first couple Olympics were all body. My second ones were body and mind. And then I just had done so much work on myself because of the devastation, and closer to God, closer to my family. Like I just wanted to finish like that.
Yes.
And it didn't happen on the competitive field, but it's happening in every other area of my life now. So I'm not losing.
No, you are absolutely winning, but that must have been a very uncertain time in your life. How did
Totally.
you deal with the uncertainty? And I talk to athletes about this a lot. When did you, what was it like, that moment that you knew you were done, which sounds so sad, but that moment comes for everyone.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It was like, I was very stubborn, and my husband saw the writing on the wall very, very early.
He knew before you did.
He did, and I was traveling back and forth. So COVID, we moved to Incline Village, Nevada. Like it was beautiful for us during COVID, and we loved it so much. We were there for 4 years, but my rehab was in LA, and my husband's like, and my people are in LA, the ones who got me back from every shoulder surgery to go back and win. And he's like, babe, I think you can do that here. And yes, of course I could. And that changed something. It's like the winning recipe or my commitment or the things I could reliably lean on to come back and feel strong. I didn't have any of that in Tahoe. And I kind of piecemealed it, found some amazing people, but it wasn't the same. So that was like the first indication, okay, like this is probably done. And I'm not going to travel to LA. Like I traveled to LA for probably 8 months. I would leave Monday after school drop off and come back Thursday after my last training session.
Wow.
And my babies were, in third, sixth, and seventh grade.
Were you?
Totally, it was the word. I'm like, and now I'm like, why did I do that? Like,
well, you had goals. You had big goals for yourself.
That's crazy, the things you're willing to do.
Yes.
And then thank goodness this happened, and God made it very clear. And my husband was like, yeah, I told you. He's like, I'm not going to say I told you, but I told you so. And I'm like, God, you were right. But I'm one of the people, like, I have to try, and I have to live it, Yes. Like, I respect my husband's opinion so much, and my doctors and all these things, but they're recommendations to me. They can't be Bible. Like, I have to have the final say.
Yes.
So I'm sad to say I got that one wrong, but I don't think I did, because I had to live that. If it was supposed to be a different way, it would have been a different way. It's kind of the way I see life.
It was part of your journey.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it taught you a lot about resilience also, because it sounds to me from what you're saying is winning that first gold was easy compared to all the rest of this. And, the humility part of it, I think, is very important for athletes or anyone that's at a high level in anything that they're doing.
Yeah.
So, okay, tell us about the years after in MLV.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So we moved back to the Bay 2 years ago. From Incline. Yep. And so we've been in Saratoga for the past 2 years. We moved back so our kids could go to high school at Midi. So last year we just had a freshman. This year we have a freshman and sophomore, Joey and Sundance. They love it with all their hearts. They play basketball and volleyball. And my daughter's at Redwood in Saratoga. So it's just been interesting trying to get our footing, back home for me. My husband's never lived here. He's always been a beach guy or a desert guy. So it's been interesting. But there's just been so many opportunities. We founded P1440, which is our Youth to Pro initiative, in 2018. And when we launched that, I became partners with this amazing woman in the VC world and as a human in general, Teresa Gao of A Crew Capital, and she became our partner in P1440. And so we've lived this journey together for over 7 years of building out this sport together. And so to be back in the same area with her is incredible. And so we have P1440 together, but now she's the majority owner of the MLV franchise that we're bringing to Northern California. So we're partners in that as well. And then our minority owner is Vivek Ranadive, who's the majority owner of the Kings in Sacramento. Yes. So I'm just surrounded by these lions at this phase of my life where I thought that was only in the past, but it's just so fun to be in this area. Like as we started, they're just dreamers and they do it and they find a way. And Teresa's like, not only her belief in me is so humbling and so beautiful, but her belief in this game and her support of women's sports and just, if you look at women's volleyball, like from the outside, you're like, how is that not mainstream? How is that not on 3 days a week and on the weekends? But we're doing that now with Major League Volleyball, MLV. We're growing that, and I cannot wait to bring a team here.
How is the transition as athlete to now entrepreneur and owner?
Oh my gosh. Well, talk about imposter syndrome. I feel
Going back to that, not feeling like you fit in.
And I heard a great quote, sorry, no worries. They say, you're not an imposter. It's just new.
Yes.
Right. And it just is so new because I don't know the language of, money and finance and business and these things. And so I'm learning every day, but that's not like my native tongue. And so I feel like an idiot largely. And then for me, like you can tell I talk fast, like I'm excited. And I feel like my job there is just like to smile and to be pretty and to share my heart, and that kind of feels kind of dumb sometimes, because I want to be able to
for a greater cause.
Well, and I believe in
it.
And it's so sincere. And that's my job. I've lived it. And I want the amazing experience I had indoor and beach for 25 plus years. I want this next generation to have that. And right now, the current generation, they have the most amazing opportunities in youth. College volleyball in indoor and beach is incredible. Like it's the most amazing pipeline to pro, but we don't have a solid pro system yet for beach and indoor. When I came out of college, like if I wanted to play pro volleyball, I would go overseas for 9 months.
Yes.
And my heart would have broken.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. And it kind of leads to early retirement because the athlete's like, well, I'm missing weddings. I'm missing babies. I'm not able to start my family. So Major League Volleyball is a legit pro league, and we're going to be an expansion team in 2027. Year 4 of the league. And it's going to be incredible. I cannot wait. And then on the pro beach side, I'm working on that every single day because the beach athletes, once every 4 years for 2 weeks, they are the number one thing in the world. People love beach and indoor volleyball, but then we go away. So really my mission is to kind of create something akin to Major League Volleyball for the beach side of life so the athletes can have a beautiful career but not just be Olympians and Olympic athletes. Like they need the NBA for beach volleyball. Otherwise, it's like niche upon niche. They need more opportunity to play and compete, and that's what we're going to build.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that is a really exciting time for women's sports. What is your hope to see with MLV in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, man.
And women's sports in general.
Women's sports is here and it's here to stay. And
Absolutely.
It's been this constant build for the past 20 years, really. Like I never had one door shut to me. Thank goodness for Billie Jean King, who made that happen for people like me. And then now we're in the generation of, athletes are finally starting to get paid. I think the NIL world has changed a lot of, young athletes' lives. But we want them to have a career after college, and so my hope and my expectation is that volleyball becomes a top 3 sport in America across the board. We really are the number 1 sport for girls and women in America. That's a very big deal. And we're a top 5 global sport in the world for men and women. Like ginormous. And so I want to kind of take a page out of the Warriors and the Valkyries books. I want to sell out, arenas like Chase and like Golden One in Sacramento. I want people to just get so vested and fall so in love with the team and the athletes that the girls become stars, that they, make great livings playing the sport they love so much. And then they could also have their Olympic ambitions as well, because I really believe, like when I was 10 years old, I was a ball girl at Stanford. I almost had a heart attack. I was so nervous. And at the end of the game, I'm like, this is what I want. Like it planted the seed in me. And so for these collegiate athletes to know and to be able to see aspirationally, there's a next level that I can get to here at home. That's incredible.
No, you have to see all the phases. And I think when you start earlier, it is so important to help you realize that goal.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so you had 3 really big phases in your life, the way I see it. The
Okay.
time that you were, those years where you were just unstoppable.
Yeah.
And maybe things came a little bit easy because you were just such a good athlete.
Sure.
And then that period where you were pushing through anything. And then the one where you were learning to slow down, adapt, maybe not push through anything.
Yeah.
When you're faced with something right now, which one of those aspects do you feel like you lean into the most?
Oh, what a fun question. Oh my gosh. I'm fundamentally a very spiritual person. Like, I believe all is always well. Like, my soul knows that. Like, I just lost my cousin.
Oh.
And we had his funeral 2 days ago. Devastating. Like, lost. And I know he's good.
Yeah.
You know, and I my soul knows that. But the human me,
Yes.
the performer in me, the achiever in me wants now. Like, and the unknown is very uncomfortable, even though my soul knows. It doesn't believe, it knows that everything's okay. And so my nature is to try, not to control, but to try to put to effort so much to try to create this environment where I get the outcome that I want. But that mode of operating isn't working anymore. It's too much, and I can't, and I don't even like it anymore. I feel like I'm pushing on people instead of letting things unfold and come together. And so, long story short, I'm really working on living in the more like faith-based, just be where you are. One of my favorite quotes, be where your feet are with all your heart, because what you need is going to show up in the moment. You know, you can't always over prepare, and you can't, know what's coming down. So you have the right tool at the right moment, you will know in the moment. So I'm really working on living in that space. And if I do put effort, and if I do fight with resilience and, persistence, it's because that's what's required in the moment, not just because that's my programming. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course.
So hard.
No, it
It's so
absolutely
interesting.
does. And, something that you've mentioned throughout this interview is your family. And one of the most special stories from when you were inducted in the San Jose Sports Hall of Fame was when you said that your parents came to every game.
Oh my gosh.
All the
Literally.
the Olympics, everything.
Yeah.
And if they, for whatever reason, weren't there, I remember you telling a story. You would look out and be like irritated. Like, why aren't they here?
Especially, my dad went everywhere, but he does not like sand or sun. So beach volleyball, he would come to all the, American ones. But like, if I was playing in like the rural parts of China, like playing in this obscure first round match, my mom wasn't there, I'd be like, Mom.
I love that. That was how grounded you were in your family and how much you
they're champions.
just really fed from that, from that support of theirs.
My family is very unconditional. Like they show up, and like we're not the most nurturing crew, but there's unconditional love that's expressed in how they show up. And I just had that my whole life. And I was never fearless, but it made me really brave. It made me able to like say yes to really scary things and to endure when beach volleyball and I felt like the biggest idiot and I was letting Misty down. Like I always had that support system to remind me, Kerri, do you want it? Are you trying your hardest? Then if you want it bad enough, suck it up, and do it with a smile.
Yeah.
Like these types of things and do it right. And so I was so grateful. Yeah, my family is everything, and this reminder after losing my cousin, Brian Barnard, it's just like he was the best of us, 45 years old, like heartbreaking. And he lived so beautifully, so presently, and he did it all. He was a champion. He had an amazing career, and he traveled the world with his girl, with his wife, like Sarah. Like, and we usually have 2 of those buckets. We work really hard and we have a good life relationship, but we're not having the playfulness. And so I think the invitation for me now is to live this forevermore with more playfulness, because if you're playfully excellent in what you do, like that's the recipe for kicking everyone's butt and having fun.
Well, your children are so lucky to have you and how you grew up with your family around and how you're raising them with family around them. And this area is so blessed to have you here, too, to give back to the community. And this has been amazing. I would love for you to tell our listeners where they can find you and learn more about these programs like P1440.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's so nice. So P1440.org.
Okay.
We have a for-profit and a nonprofit side. The .org is our nonprofit. We give scholarships. We go into inner cities and we teach them, holistic training, breath work, along with volleyball and journaling. And it's so beautiful. At Kerri Lee Walsh, and then at MLV NorCal right now is our handle for our pro team. But we will be naming the team very soon, and I can't wait to share that with them.
And where will they be playing?
We don't know yet.
Okay.
So we're looking at SAP Center.
Okay.
And also Golden One in Sacramento. And we might have a combination of both, which is what I want.
Yes.
I think that'd be wonderful. John and the San Jose Sports Authority, I love them so much. So I would love to play at home a lot. I think that's about it. But I'm easy to find, and we have a program for beach. We have a beach volleyball program called Hero Volley. We're going to have an event in San Diego this year and also in Montauk, New York. And that's, I think, at Hero Volley _. And it's really fun. Best in the world, playing with average Joes and having a good time for charity.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to The Resilience Factor. If you're ready to build a stronger, longer-lasting body, make sure to subscribe and share this episode with someone who's ready to thrive. You can follow me at Dr. Pamela Mehta for more expert tips on strength, recovery, and orthopedic health. Until next time, stay strong, stay smart, and stay resilient.